Today, we are breaking down Trevor Sikkema's post-trade deadline 2026 NFL mock draft. Let's get right into this. If you guys are not new, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Prepare your eyes for a quick little flick because everything's spoiled right there. This live reaction, I have not actually looked at it, but I realized the first pick was the same. I don't want to take a risk because it kind of takes the fun out of it. But if you guys have not already subscribed to NFL Stock Exchange, that's where Trevor Sikkema as well as Connor Rogers end up making a fantastic production where they go over a lot of things on a nearly daily basis. So feel free to go over and check them out. I'm a huge fan of their work, and Trevor is a friend of the show. So got to show some love wherever I can. He's actually been super genuine, super nice, and very helpful outside of the YouTube realm. The whole entire reason I have my camera, I have my mic is because of him. So, big shout out to Trev for not only being a great mind in the business, but also a great person to help out people who he doesn't need to, like myself. But let's get into this. Below my face is my board. It is going to be all the players that I grade in all 22. There are some significant changes that have been happening, and if you guys want to see this list of over 280 players, because I keep moving guys to 2027 board, feel free to go over to the Patreon. I have it for $5 a month. You get that, all my evaluations, including the guys I moved over to 2027, along with extra stock report. You guys love that series. You get to see everybody who I think is a winner or a loser for the week, as well as rookie watch, which we're going to be a week behind because of the draft, because of the trade deadline, but still great package there. Talk about the number one pick here with the New Orleans Saints going Ty Simpson, quarterback out of Alabama. I'm not there with Ty to be a number one overall pick, but he has certainly had a really, really good year. And to me, he is easily in the top 4 consideration for the quarterbacks. Some people have him at 1. I think there's a very small gap in the top group of people. So, whether you want to have him at 1, 2, 3, 4, I don't think that it's a massive concern. Like, I think that there's definitely reasons for every way, shape, or form of that list. And, if you would think that New Orleans Saints want to go after Ty Simpson at 1, I'm not going to complain. His big time throws are phenomenal. He struggled week 1. Outside of that, I've seen him consistently throw big time throws, and he's gotten better week over week. That's great to see. So I want to continue seeing that growth, and I think it absolutely could. If he does, then he can go at number 1. At number 2, we got the Titans going Ruben Bain Jr., edge rusher out of Miami. I had the pleasure of seeing Bain 2 inches away from my face this past week at SMU, and talk about a game to see in person. That was phenomenal. I was on the field when, everybody started rushing from the stands. It was an absolutely crazy experience, but you guys go over and follow me over on Instagram as well. I'm going to be posting some stuff from that game because it was so wild. Ended up taking some good pictures, standing next to Michael Irvin. It's just like, what a crazy experience that was. But Ruben Bain ended up having a solid game. He just didn't pass the eye test that I expected for somebody who is as talented as he is. So that is a little bit concerning to me. I don't have enough experience watching this many prospects in person. Like, I've been to the Senior Bowl 2 years in a row. Like, if I've been going to the Senior Bowl 5 years in a row and I understand like how accurate the eye test is, then I think I could put a little bit more weight into it. But Ruben Bain didn't wow me with my eyes. It wasn't like I was gravitated towards him the whole time. And that's not to dismiss anything that he's done. But I'm saying in terms of like the top end players in the league, like a number 2 pick should be, it is certainly something to take into account. And I think he's going to be a very good player. I think the Titans just need some consistency, which Ruben Bain can provide. But it is just something to note. Again, I'm not saying that my eye test is necessarily the end all be all because I have a lot more experience watching tape. I played the game of football for 7 years, but I would also say that, on this level, I still have like the eye test is still definitely growing and developing. And again, too little information for me to put enough stock into it, but I still want to put it out there because you guys don't know whether he passed the eye test for me or not. You can take as much stock or as little stock in it as you can. But Ruben Bain going at number 2 makes a lot of sense. It's a pick that I just made this past week, actually last night. But at number 3, you got the New York Jets going Dante Moore, quarterback out of Oregon. It feels like that's the move that they're going to be going. I do love the idea if like some way, shape, or form they can end up trying to trade down, get best player available down the line. And they end up going after someone like, Jeremiah Smith and Julian Sand combination. That'd be really cool. At the same time, you also run the risk of, one of your picks not necessarily being at number 1 or 2. It's very hard to guarantee yourself a top 2, top 3 pick. So I understand that. Dante Moore is a very good quarterback. He is my QB2. And in the perfect situation, I actually have him as my QB1. But Again, I think that in terms of the balance side of things, the next quarterback that we'll be talking about is a little bit more balanced, I would say. And that is at number number 4. We got the Miami Dolphins going quarterback Fernando Mendoza out of Indiana. Mendoza is my QB1. I think he's a very good player. I don't overvalue quarterbacks, that's why you don't see them on my board. I think that pure talent wise, it's very hard to be a quarterback that is as talented as these extremely refined weapons that you see. And I'm still gauging out in terms of positional value and all that. But if it guys make you feel better, he is number 25 on my board. I do think he's a very good player, but I will say that the Iowa as well as the Oregon game made me a little bit concerned about Fernando Mendoza because I thought there was a lot of sloppy play in there that would translate pretty poorly to the NFL. But he's still been able to go system to system from Cal to Indiana and continue performing at a super high level. I think it's very possible he could be going at number 1 or even, at least in the top 5, which the Dolphins getting the Cuban Missile would be really, really fun. I'm surprised that, the nickname wasn't put in here, but I'm pretty sure Mendoza also grew up in Miami or at least in like the Florida area. But, another really cool fact that you can end up tossing in there. At number 5, the Giants go after wide receiver Jordan Tyson, wide receiver out of Arizona State. Already said wide receiver. We're doubling up today. But, I go wide receiver for this team all the time. I was willing to go Carnell Tate for them as well. This team definitely needs to focus on getting more and more firepower. I think you have the offensive line foundation in place in terms of the offensive line coach, some good veteranship as long as Thomas stays healthy. And then you have guys like Bo that I think that could end up being a future on the inside or at the tackle position. So you have at least pieces that I feel comfortable with to where you don't need to force offensive line here. That's what I'm trying to get out. Not saying the line is complete, but that you don't need to force it. I think the area that you're really struggling is top end receiver talent because once Malik Neighbors went down, you're kind of working with some scraps. And you don't want Malik Neighbors to come back from an injury, season-ending injury, and then end up having to, just put all the weight back on his back. And so Jordan Tyson would be an amazing option there. Has some medical concerns, but none of them have been interlinked. Like none of them are related. So it could just be a streak of bad luck for the guy. But Jordan Tyson, polish-wise, is unbelievable. At 80, I said 83 because I saw 83 right there. At number 6, you got Cleveland Browns going Spencer Fano, tackle out of Utah. Offensive line is absolutely a position the Browns can continue trying to upgrade. Do I think the right tackle spot is the primary focus? I don't necessarily believe so, but if you want to upgrade the offensive line, upgrade the offensive line. If you think that Fano can be, sideless and just be someone you can end up putting at either side, go for it. He's the best offensive tackle in the class. In my opinion, I love Caleb Tiernan, but, adjusted for the consensus, Spencer Fano is the best tackle in the class. So you might as well go after it, especially if you have your doubts on your offensive line. Number 7, you got the Vegas Raiders going Arvell Reese, edge rusher out of Ohio State. My dumbass still has him put as a linebacker. It should be linebacker/edge. I'm not going to spend time during this video to do it because, I hate to say it, it's not going to be that big of miscommunication. But regardless, Arvell Reese is a fantastic defensive piece. And do I think the Raiders have the team in place for them to use Arvell Reese to the maximum of their capacity? I don't know about that. But with the right draft after this round, I think this could end up being the most impactful player on your team. You need to go after some edge talent. Arvell can end up masking as a linebacker as well. Very exciting piece if utilized correctly. At number 8, you got the Cincinnati Bengals going Peter Woods, defensive interior out of Clemson. Just kind of going BPA here. I think the Bengals are in a very unique position. That being that they have really weird standards for what they usually go after in terms of the edge core, which is high RAS and big size, right? And that doesn't, you look at the measurables, none of these edge rushers that are going to be available are really matching up to that. If Hendrickson's gone, Shamar's having his struggles. He's a developmental player. That's kind of going to be what happens, right? But none of the edge rushers really match what the Cincinnati Bengals should be looking for. So you're going to have to try to snipe talent down the board. But then if you also look, even when you end up looking at Mansour Delane, who is my favorite for the Cincinnati Bengals at 8, I still think that there's some concerns as to whether he's going to be a boundary if he has shorter arms. I think he's going to be a boundary. I think he's going to be great. But I understand that Peter Woods might just be the option they go for. Help out the defensive line, also has some experience at edge. And so, be intriguing. Number 9, you got the Commanders going Caleb Downs, defensive back, Ohio State. I always wish that Arvell Reese can fall to the Commanders. Obviously, he went at number 7. For me, if you put an extremely talented defensive piece in the hands of Dan Quinn, I'm going to just smile because this is a man who elevated that defense to a level it should not have been last year. And they had a red hot rookie who is still a very good player in Jaden Daniels. I hope he heals very quickly. Thank God it was not his throwing elbow that ended up going like that. But I always get excited whenever a very smart defensive mind that can work with scraps ends up being able to work with a Ferrari. So I'm very excited for that because Caleb Downs is the most consistent player in the entire draft. Just been unbelievably reliable since the moment he stepped on the field. At number 10, we got the Baltimore Ravens going David Bailey, edge rusher out of Texas Tech. I know that this isn't, I assume, taking into account for what happened versus Arizona State because he was caught on video, like going after and assaulting and battering a photographer. I'm not a fan of that. I don't care what the reasoning is. There was a reasoning put out there that makes it even worse, but like assuming even that there's some bad things that were said, like it's all on camera. I'm not taking him, which funnily enough, the Ravens who ended up taking somebody who also had some sort of criminal concern last year in Mike Green ends up getting another one here. But, the Ravens do need to continue bulking up their defensive line. I think David Bailey could end up being that. I'm not necessarily sold on David Bailey. I do think that he's just a solid edge rusher. But again, those off-field concerns make me a little bit more concerned over, whether I draft him or not. And number 11, we got the Los Angeles Rams going Mansour Delane, corner out of LSU. I love this pick. I'm pretty sure I ended up making this one yesterday as well. He has just been so damn good. Corner 1 coming into the year for me. I love the fit with LSU, and it has been exactly what I hoped for. So Mansour Delane, a true blue chip player for me in this class at a position that is very desperate to be filled for the Rams. At number 12, we got the Arizona Cardinals going Vega. I know it's like Yone, and I don't know how to pronounce it. So please, guys, one of y'all ended up helping me out before. My dumbass didn't remember it. Please feel free to be able to re-say it. But the guard out of Penn State, he is the most reliable pass blocker in the class at the guard position. Amazing anchor. I will say I'm very shocked by his regression as a run blocker, in my opinion, because I thought of him as an absolute monster as a run blocker in 2024. That's just not the case this year. I don't like how he run blocks. Like his hands slide off. He doesn't always take the right angles. I'm a little bit concerned about that part, but if you're looking at someone who's just going to be consistent, this is a good player. I would prefer to go after a right tackle that could end up being a guard. And in my opinion, that's someone who did pass the eye test for me, and that's CC Francis Mauigoa. Again, I don't know if he ends up making it at tackle, but I think that he'd end up being a quality tackle at least until you find somebody. And then you can end up kicking him to guard if he fails at tackle. So that would be my strategy there. I would not really be going after guard this early. At 13, the Texans go CC Mauigoa, tackle out of Miami. So for me, again, I think the value would have been there for the Cardinals. I think interior offensive line has really solid value in this class. We'll see exactly what Trev thinks because I do know the board is not fully updated on the simulator as of last night. So, opinions continue to change. And so it's good to see, we're going to see what he exactly thinks. But the Texans going after CC Mauigoa is a pick that I make several times. And again, someone who passed the eye test for me, I do think of him more as a guard than a tackle. But for a team like the Texans, it's an upgrade regardless, and I fully support it. At 14, the Cowboys go cornerback Jermod McCoy out of Tennessee. I highly doubt he comes out. He's a true junior that's coming back from the ACL tear. And with the way college pays, I just prefer for him to go back to school. He's built very well. He's a strong boundary corner. I think he'd fit well with the Cowboys, but I do worry about his athleticism. I don't like the speed personally. I saw him get burnt on drag routes quite a few times. It does worry me a bit. But in terms of off coverage, he's extremely smart. Use of physicality through the roof. Like he's somebody who could end up locking down an AJ Brown if need be. And that's a great place to be. But I do think that his best option would be to go back to school. I think we're overrating what like we think of him versus what maybe the NFL would think of somebody who comes into the league with less than half a year of experience under his belt post injury. So I do like cornerback for the Cowboys, though. I actually ended up going for his teammate rather than going Jermall McCoy, going Colton Hood for the Cowboys. I believe it might have been a trade down, but regardless, the Cowboys going after corner is a perfectly fine move. The Vikings end up going running back at Jeremiah Love out of Notre Dame at 15. I've contemplated this move several times, and he's a very, very good back. He's been very consistent in terms of being over 6 yards per carry year over year. Like, he's a very good running back. You can't blame the Vikings if they want to end up saying, hey, we're going to address, center, maybe right tackle, the developmental guy in the draft. But we want to be able to have a staple piece in the running back room because kind of lacking a little bit there. Jordan Mason, not necessarily the talent that you would hope for to take over. And Aaron Jones has not been the most reliable. So it's understandable. I usually go corner, but if you end up going Jeremiah Love, I cannot say I have not contemplated that. At 16, the Panthers go wide receiver Carnell Tate out of The Ohio State University. I take him in the top 5. This is perfectly reasonable. The Panthers are not done adding firepower, and you can have Leggett, Tate, and McMillan. It's not overcrowded because this team should be continuing to, you can't be complacent when you're starting to make progress. And so if you get a talent like Carnell here at 16, which Carnell has now jumped to my wide receiver 2 position, I don't think it's a bad idea to just say lock it in and forget about it. 17, you got the Chiefs going edge TJ Parker out of Clemson. We'll see if he ends up being able to, match up to what Spags will be looking for with like arm length and such. But I mean, he has a 265 frame. I really like what he brings to the table in terms of technique. He still just has these mental processing issues, in my opinion, that they do scare me because I'm watching Darian Menza and grading him based on his games of Clemson, Georgia Tech. And Menza's running like within 2 feet of TJ Parker. And TJ does not see it. He's blowing up the tackle and pushing him in, but he does not see that the quarterback is like right next to him. And that was my biggest issue with him coming into the year. It's why he was my edge 11 coming into the year. He did not necessarily know where the ball was or what the play was going to be. It's still an issue. But for the Chiefs, that's not necessarily the role TJ has to fill. He has to be more of a polished pass rusher, which is exactly what he could be. And getting consistent pressure allows other people to get opportunities to make the bigger plays. So this is a move that I think, even though I've never done it, I still support. At 18, we got the Bears going linebacker / edge rusher Cassius Howell out of Texas A&M. We've just never seen an edge rusher taken with 31 or sub 31 inch arms in the first round. And I don't know if there is one successful edge rusher in the NFL at under 31 inches with arm length. I really like how Cassius Howell plays the game, but the NFL game is different than the college game, and I'm very worried about that arm length. I'm not a huge sucker for it where if I see 33 and a half versus 33, I'm going to go with the guy with 33 and a half. I don't necessarily believe in that at all. But there are just some physical limitations where physics exists. If you have a 5-inch reach disadvantage on somebody and the NFL tackles are not what these college tackles are, they know how to use their length. They know where to strike. They're much more polished. It's going to be very difficult to be able to make your way around them, no matter how fast you are. So, I mean, again, we've seen some guys with sub 33s have a lot of success. Nick Benito, one of them. Micah Parsons, another. But he's still pretty much a full inch per arm shorter. And that is very scary to me. And at 18, I think that's something that is a little bit unrealistic. But, I mean, again, I really like Cassius Howell. It's just, again, we're talking about physics here. We're talking about something that is genuinely something you can't ignore. So, I do think in terms of realism, this would never happen, but I do like the fit to the Bears, based on the fact they're going after Joe Tryon Shoyinka, definitely somebody who is not necessarily the standard Dennis Allen build, and maybe they can end up trying to curve it with Cassius Howell, but again, also not really with the Dennis Allen 6'5", 265 plus build. Cleveland Browns go wide receiver Denzel Boston out of Washington at 19. So you end up walking out of here with Fano and Boston. Very intriguing to pass on quarterback. However, Denzel Boston's a very good receiver. I send him to my Steelers all the time. And funnily enough, we'll just talk about the Steelers pick here where they go wide receiver Mekhi Lemon out of USC. I had these exact picks in the opposite order as of last night. I like to go after Mekhi Lemon to basically be a better version of Jerry Jeudy for the Browns. And I want the Steelers to be able to go after the best wide receiver available, which at that time, I think for the Steelers would have been Denzel Boston. So, I think that Denzel Boston, Mekhi Lemon, both are extremely talented in their own right. Denzel Boston, where the hell did he go on my board? Number 23. So a big fan of Denzel Boston at 23 on my board. Mekhi Lemon at 15. I do have Mekhi a little bit higher, but Denzel Boston is just such a polished receiver. He took a big step this year. We are unbelievably blessed with the fact that wide receivers took a big step. They pretty much Christian McCaffrey sacrificial sucked the life out of the quarterback class to do so. But at the same time, I mean, at least we get one. That's a positive. We get to see a pretty mediocre wide receiver class coming into the year end up becoming a huge strength, which is beautiful. So Denzel Boston for the Browns, I don't mind it. Getting a true X is not a bad idea. For the Steelers game, Mekhi Lemon, I don't mind it as well. He's a perfect pairing for DK Metcalf. He's a wide receiver I have literally right next to Carnell Tate. Not going to mind that at all. At number 21, the Lions go Keldrick Falk, defensive lineman out of Auburn. I actually quite like this. We just got to see what weight he wants to stay at. We've seen it go from 288 to 270 to 285. We've seen him go a little bit more to the defensive interior side, then a full edge, then almost a full defensive interior. I want to see what the hell this guy's going to want to do. It reminds me a little bit of how we looked at DeMarvin Leal at Texas A&M to a much lower degree. DeMarvin Leal was already 280, ended up going to the 300 mark as a D tackle. Not a fan of that. But Keldrick Falk, it's just please just kind of find the weight that you want to play at. I do like the idea of the Lions using him almost like a Josh Pascal, but really good run defender, developing as a pass rusher. But I mean, again, you're just kind of getting him to build the consistency, not really the flash on your team. And I think that would accomplish the role. 22, the Chargers go defensive interior Caden McDonald at Ohio State. Really good nose tackle. Someone coming into the year I really loved to replace. Speaking of the Lions, what I want to call him Quinnen Williams. But you guys know what I'm talking about. But Williams ended up going to the Lions in the first round. Then now you can end up having his replacement, Caden McDonald, go back-to-back first rounds. I love that. But the Chargers losing Poona Ford, I do think it hit them a little bit. And Caden McDonald could have been the longer-term option there. So excited about that. At 23, the Niners go edge Joshua Josephs out of Tennessee. I'm pretty sure I ended up considering Josephs to the Niners in round 2. I'm not fully sold on Josephs. He is someone with incredible arm length, just under 35 inches, 240 pounds. I think he fits very well into this defensive system. I think Robert Saleh would love him. If this happens, it happens. I'm not going to complain because I really love the fit. And I think that we underrate fit and we focus too much on talent, because really good talent in the wrong system does okay. Mediocre talent in a great system can do great. I'll just put that there. So I think Joshua Josephs is going to be a very big asset for the Niners in that case. And I think he complements Michael Williams very well. By the way, Tyleik Williams. I don't know why I kept wanting to say Quinnen Williams, and I couldn't get that out of my head. I understand I'm talking about Tyleik Williams earlier. But you got the Cowboys going to R. Mason Thomas, funnily thinking of Quinnen Williams here. Edge rusher R. Mason Thomas out of Oklahoma. A lot of success the Cowboys have had recently at edge have been surprisingly from their undersized edge rushers. You look at Ezraku at the sub 250 mark. You also look at Houston. He ended up being a big surprise. R. Mason Thomas could have basically the longer-term version of Justin Houston there. James Houston. Am I tripping? I think Justin Houston's the chief. I don't know. Names are not my forte, but the Cowboys can end up going after a very, very talented edge rusher here. To me, R. Mason Thomas's best trait is his relentlessness. He never stops running towards the quarterback. He's never someone that will give up on a block. And it's just a pain in the ass as an offensive lineman to continue to always have to be locked in. You might win the rep versus R. Mason Thomas, but the moment you let up, he will take advantage of that and end up winning the rep versus you. And those players are just not fun to play against. So I really do love that for R. Mason Thomas. Do I think with his sub 32-inch arms he goes in the first? A little bit more of a concern, but definitely a good player nonetheless. At 25, the Bills go cornerback Colton Hood out of Tennessee. Harrison's looked better than I've ever expected, so I'm very happy to see that. Thank God. He has some moxie to him. I don't know about boundary corner 2 being a position I'd want to target this early, especially when you have my favorite player to the Bills and Sonny Styles here. I'd prefer that fit. But, getting good corner talent is never something you should say no to. If you think someone will upgrade your corner core, just do it because, having weaknesses in your corner core, especially when you're trying to win Super Bowls, usually ends up coming back to bite you in the ass. So if you do believe Colton Hood's the best asset on defense, go for it. This corner class is not necessarily that good. The linebacker class is great. You could end up playing the cards right if Colton Hood's your move in the first. 26, you got the Seahawks going Jennings Dunker out of Iowa. Right tackle right now, listed as a guard here. Could even be a center. I like the idea because he is more of a zone blocker, but at the same time, because he's like he's pretty damn athletic, but he is a mauler as well. Like, I just love it. I don't like Jennings Dunker to this degree, so I'm just going to end up inserting the player who I would prefer, which is also a guard, and it's Emmanuel Pregnon out of Oregon. I love him to death. Now, granted, you're going to right tackle to right guard, a little bit. Maybe, I don't know if it's necessarily easier than a left guard to right guard switch. I do think on the tackle side, it's a little bit more technically different. But, Jennings Dunker, it's not a bad move. I just personally prefer Emmanuel Pregnon. You see where Pregnon's at my board. So it kind of explains that. 27, we got the Rams going Caleb Lamu, tackle out of Utah. I think this is a fantastic move. I think I've actually also had the Seahawks going after Lamu instead and having him kick into guard. But high quality player, move him to right tackle, see what happens. Worst case scenario, you get yourself a high quality left guard. I highly doubt it. I highly doubt that you end up having like issues with Caleb Lamu, but I do think of him more as a guard than a tackle. 28, you got the Broncos going Kenyon Sadiq, tight end out of Oregon. I love this because Kenyon Sadiq is the perfect joker for the Broncos. I would love to see Sean Payton utilize his skill set to the maximum degree. At number 29, we have the Buccaneers going Sonny Styles, linebacker out of The Ohio State University. Amazing fit. Whether you send him to Bulls, whether you want to send him to, you could even send him to Denver. Like, I personally really like the fit. And then, of course, you can end up sending him to Buffalo. So a lot of very good options for Sonny Styles in the late first. The board is very favorable for Sonny Styles to be a first-round pick. At 30, we got the Patriots going tackle Austin Searveld out of Ohio State. To me, he's a left tackle right now for him, but he played guard a bit last year. I'd prefer to see him at guard. So might be in the conversation to move to guard due to his lack of arm length. So his work at tackle is so impressive. Would like to see him fail before I move him inside. To be fair, that's kind of the whole entire thought process behind like Will Campbell going into the draft last year. But I do think Austin Searveld is someone who I do not see in that light. Like, I think I'm not necessarily a big fan of Searveld. I think I would have him probably outside of my day 2 zone. Like, I think he's a day 3 player for me right now. But he's playing very well. It's just, again, talking about the college game and the NFL game, they're two different things. 31, the Eagles go Caden Proctor, tackle/guard out of Alabama. This is the pick I made yesterday for them as well, so I'm spoiling my video. But you can end up playing guard in the short run at the very minimum, and then end up having the best offensive line coach in Stoutland, end up coaching him to be the long-term future at right tackle, if need be. At 32, and ending off this mock draft, the Colts, just kidding. The Colts went Sauce Gardner, gave the pick to the Jets, and they go Christian Miller, defensive interior out of Georgia. This is a pick I made myself. It's an amazing replacement for Quinnen Williams. The Jets are pretty blessed in this class to be able to have the opportunity to go after some pretty talented defensive interiors there in late 1 and early 2. But that's going to be the video. Thank you again for watching. Double checking there's not a round 2, but thank you again for watching. Shout out to Trev. Go give him some love. See you later. Peace.